Hey guys, welcome to Center Bounce. We're here on Hump Day for day 3 of your team reviews. Let's go. We're here for day 3 of the team reviews, and let's not dilly-dally. We're going to go straight into it, and we're going to have a good time. Okay, guys? We're going to start off with Jesse Goy's team. This is the first screenshot. Let's see if we can zoom in just a little bit. $36,800 in the bank, looking all right. You got some options to move. Stuart Dawson 2, Dale 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 primos, 10, 11 primo team with Sheasel, Allen, McLean, and King. You know my views. Not the biggest fan of having any key forwards, let alone 2 in the forward line. Sheasel, first one I think that we've seen with Sheasel in this series. Great reports coming out of North, especially in the intra club. Had a bit of halfback role as well, and looks really good. So I can understand the appeal in going with a Sheasel, but probably have too many rookies on the field. I'd imagine Constable on field there. Would have a Phillips instead. I think you've paid up a lot in the back line. And Dale, some question marks over Dale as well. So it's a question mark, but definitely one that you would have to wait and see in the intra-club match, in the Pracky games. Also find it interesting that there's no McKenna. But all in all, you've got one rookie there, a rookie price there. So in Jimby. So I think you're playing an extra rookie in the midfield that you probably wouldn't want to have, as we've discussed in our previous videos. But all in all, I think the team is mostly good. Thoughts, Big J?
Yeah, it just feels like it's trying to do too many things without actually doing anything. So Ruckline's okay. I don't mind starting the risk in English. But if you just scroll over the rest of the team, you've gone in and really stacked to that back line. So what you consider to be three pricey premiums, I guess, and Yo in the back line there. And then Caulfield and Wilmot. Like, it's okay. No worries. The midfield there, it looks fine. 4 primos, that kind of thing. But then you've also got 3 rookies on field. So you're really kind of stretching the mark there. Most people are playing 2. And then as we scroll into the forward line, you're coming up even further short. I think you've got Dunkley and Taranto. So I've seen teams at the moment that have almost more premiums than you on field, plus a more stacked forward line. That forward line is really going to hurt once the going gets tough. Once Allen has a bad game, let's pretend Sheasel has a bad game. You're really relying on these premiums to go massive, and because you've got premiums in your team that everyone has, you're not getting extra points from anywhere else compared to the opposition. So really have a rethink. Maybe we've got the preseason games coming up tomorrow. So kind of have a rethink of, hey, are these players actually going to do quite well? I don't mind the Ben King pick. I know Joe doesn't like him, but I agree. It's not like you've got Ben King at F6 and Allen at F5, and then that's the team done. You're putting up a lot of risk. I think you've got way too many rookies on field. This isn't 2022 when we're playing guns and rookies. We're not stacking the back line, and that's kind of what you've done here. And I don't think it's going to push you up the rankings. Lynch on the bench is interesting. Most people going Madden. Maybe you can free up some cash there and have a loophole. If you think he's going to play, then hey, presto, it's fantastic for you. But it'd be one that I'm actually looking to probably drop in your team.
Yeah, a lot of money being used up and probably inefficiently, and then you end up having less primos than a lot of other people, whilst also fielding a lot of rookies on field. So definitely, probably something that can be addressed and fixed fairly quickly, though. So thank you very much, Jesse. We come to Jackie Davies' team, Big J.
Yeah, so I guess you'd call it 3 premiums in the back line, another 4 in the midfield, so that makes 7. So that's not too bad so far. Scroll across, Joe. 2 in there, so 7, 9, 10, 11, 12. So I don't mind the team. 12 premiums is kind of normal. The consensus at the moment is to stack the forward line. I think maybe this was a team that got made because Sheasel did quite well in the preseason intra-club game. I don't know how well he's going to do against real opposition and where he's going to play. So banking a lot on him maybe not the best idea. He's 200K. So for 200K, you can get a little bit more out of, 20K more, you can get a Callahan in the midfield, for example, who's likely to play basically full-time mid at the moment and dominate there. 50K more, you can get a Flanders. So, it's not great. Scroll back to I don't mind the ruck line. So forward line premiums are great. Ruck line's fine. Just to wait and see with Grundy. I think it's probably just, it feels like it's a case, I guess, of one too many rookies on field. You guys know, obviously, now by my opinion of running 3 rookies on field in the midfield, and then you've done another 2 in the back line. So you don't have a McKenna, you don't have a Jinby in that position. You don't have a few of the other guys, even like a Gota. You don't have him at the moment either. So you're really relying on these rookies who haven't even played a game yet to really hurt you. I've got, obviously I can see Jinby there on the midfield bench, which is fine. But, he's one of the more talked about players and you don't even have him on field. So I think you're batting too deep with a few of these rookie priced expensive players, whereas you can open up and grab a couple more mid prices across the field. Sicily might have a bad game and you can get him a lot cheaper. Same with the Sinclair, depending on position. I'm happy with you coming in and picking, the top line guys, the guys who are going to be top 5, but just not at the expense of your team. All right, go, Joe.
Yeah, we don't know how much money you got left in the bank either. And some interesting use of cash. Going with a Cunningham as well. A 163K. That's a really awkward price as well for just someone that we're not even sure is going to be best 22, play every game, make you 150K. It's a lot to pay up, only to then have 2 rookies on the field in the back line, in addition to 3 rookies in the forward line. And then you basically have another rookie here. So I don't know. You feel like you've gone value, so to speak, in the ruck line, but you're 1 primo short in the forward line compared to a lot of people. You're 1 rookie extra in the midfield, and you're probably another rookie extra in the back line as well. And that's the price that you got to pay when you're really paying up and not really playing the value game by starting all of these, the 2 most expensive defenders, the 2 most expensive midfielders. It becomes really hard for you to have a really balanced team. And I think right now the team is a bit unbalanced given how much money is being spent on the top side. You could easily free up some cash if you were to go for a Green or a Titch, for example, to be one of your midfield primos. And that could easily free up a lot of money to then upgrade somewhere else to get a rookie to become a genuine mid-pricer. So I agree. I think you've got too many rookies on field, and that is probably what I would change. Thank you very much for your team, Jackie. We now get to Kayleen Kennedy's team.
Go for it.
Who's got 66,000 in the bank. 66, that's a fair amount there in the bank. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Bolton you're picking as a primo, but there's a lot of question marks over whether or not he is genuinely going to be a primo. There are a lot of reports that he is going to be playing more forward, and it makes sense because they've brought in 2 gun midfielders from the Giants. You've got Aaron Cadman, who's also a key forward. John Amos, key forward. Neil, unsure what his job security is. I understand that Tomahawk is down right now and being managed, but it's, again, playing a key forward role. I'm not the biggest fan of key forwards, and you're really stacking up on them here. So I think you're going to have a lot of inconsistent scoring, and I think you're playing. It's very light on, I'd imagine, in there, especially without a Taranto, who I think is a big omission. Meek is one that I think a lot of question marks, one that you really have to keep a close eye on in the Pracky matches. He's going to be sharing ruck by reports. I think your midfield is also quite light on in terms of you don't have Phillips. Elijah Hollands at 318k. I think there's definitely more surer options than them in, like, for example, if you wanted a Hopper who you don't have, which I think is a big omission too, or a Sheed perhaps. So you've also gone quite light in the back line, fielding 3 rookies as well. So I don't know. I think there's definitely a better use of cash. I think by paying up so much in the midfield, you've sort of really jeopardized a bit of the structure of your team, and you're playing too many rookies, I'd imagine.
Yeah. I kind of feel that way as well. So the back line, the premiums are fine. You can have Sinclair, Sard, Yo. I don't mind. Goda and Jimby are great. I'd try and put in a McKenna. Apparently, he's doing quite well. The great thing about your team, Kayleen, is that you've got 66k in the bank. So you can do kind of whatever you want to do, really. If you need to bring in another mature age rookie, you can do that, and vice versa across the field. The midfield's okay. You've got the most expensive guys in there. In some respects, that's fantastic. You've locked in 4 of the top 8. In other areas, it's really hampered. As Joe said, some other areas on field that you've got, people running Green and Mitchell will be able to swap in to Neil and Miller. For example, kind of when you start upgrading players. I don't think they're going to come out to the point where they're unobtainable. They will be about 600k, and it will cost them 1 trade to get like the 150k ish that you're starting with, that they can spend across the field on their team. So just kind of something to consider there. Hollands is okay. I'd rather get Hopper instead. I think he's going to end up being a must-have. You have to have him. If you don't, it's really going to burn. The other rookies are okay as well. As we've spoken before, no Phillips is a bit silly. I think he's going to be the almost number one owned rookie outside of Ashcroft. And then having 3 on field kind of really hurts as well. One of those guys has a bad game and you've lost like 3k ranks during the week. So you kind of got to be careful there. Teams are running 1 and 2 rookies on field in the midfield, and you're running 3. So really something to watch out for. Forward line, Joe? Yeah. So no Dunkley is a huge omission here. I think you have to have him, especially at the price. It's a bit crazy not to. I don't mind the rookies. I think, well, in saying that, I don't think Amos is going to do that well. I think Cadman, you really don't pick key forwards, especially ones that are still learning their craft this late into the preseason. I think there's way better options there. I'd rather you pick Ben King or Oscar Allen than Cadman, and that's kind of saying something. Sometimes with forward premiums, people pick them for a reason, and people don't pick them for a reason. I think Bolton, for 20k more, you can get Taranto, who offers so much more in terms of value and scoring than a Bolton does. So feels like maybe you're picking guys that you like versus proven Supercoach scorers in their position who are cheaper. Just something to kind of look out for there. Maybe go wait. Sorry, maybe go and wait for the preseason games. You can kind of see who's performing and who's not, and have a rethink of some of your players. Your R2 position's very sketch. You don't want to be picking a guy who's number 2 in a ruck line, even though Meek did come across from Freo. They're talking at the moment that he will share time with Reeves. I don't think he'll be the number 1. And for a guy, 50k, was it 70k more, and you can get Marshall in, who is looking to be the number 1, who's scored big numbers in the past. So it'd be one I'd be looking to change. Teagle's okay. It just depends on if he's going to be the number 1 ruck at Port. It's a big wait and see for me.
Great. Thank you very much for your team, Kayleen. We now come to Thesal's team. You want to start us off, Big J, with that one?
Sure. So blow it up for me, Joe.
More?
No, all good. So backline, you've got 3 premiums there, which is great. I would love to see a mid-pricer, maybe like a Caulfield or a Yo. Yo's kind of flavor of the month, but he should be not a keeper, but he's basically forcing himself to be one of the main picks this year. Oliver and Bont's okay. Just be careful of Oliver. Dunkley in the midfield's very interesting. Green and Mitchell and Hopper, so batting 6 deep, which is great. Everyone knows my opinions on those rookies in the midfield. Grundy Marshall's fantastic. You can kind of just hope that Grundy's going to be the number one. If not, save some money and try and grab a Wits or an English. Rosie Taranto. Jackson. Okay, so this is the pit that's really going to be changing up a lot of stuff in your team. We've spoken about the awesome foursome across the board in the other videos this week. I think they're almost becoming a must-have. I wonder if you would be better off going swapping Dunkley and Jackson and then picking up someone else who's appropriately priced around that mark, or looking to maybe go out a Jackson altogether. I just don't know where you get the money for at the moment. Maybe swap out a Sheasel, who I don't think is going to be a great position either. Phillips on field is great. You can get away with Ashcroft, McKenzie, and Phillips at a pinch. It's not the best option, but you can definitely do it. And I think it's better. I think Cornelio, hot take right here. I think Cornelio and the rookie is going to have a better season for you than Jackson and Sheasel. So that's kind of my hot take at the moment. But for the money you're spending across the board there, I think you can do much better. We're not here to make teams the same, but when there's some real value in players, you have to suggest them. You have to say, hey, grab this guy because he's 60% owned, 50 to 60%. If you don't have him, it's going to hurt. So that's kind of why we're suggesting these guys. Off to you, Joe.
100% agreed. There's nothing. I understand that, it might seem like a lot of teams become really similar towards the start of the year, but that's also just because there is, at that point in time, there's a lot more information that's out there that has been gathered. We've had a look at the preseason games. We've had a look at intra-club games. We've got a good understanding of which players are coming into the year with good roles who are going to be value for their price. A lot of this year, we've got 36 trades, and that's something that I don't think a lot of people are realizing, that is a lot of trades. Now, obviously, of course, you can burn through them really quickly, but if you have a good starting team that is predominantly focused around value, you can really make the most of all of those trades and save yourself a lot of money along the way, whilst also upgrading at a really cool rate. Now, Jackson is one who could really have games where he's only got 30% ruck time and might end up stuck forward for 70% of the game. We don't like forwards in the forward line. We want non-forward forwards in the forward line, as we've said many a time. But you're also paying up for rookies on the bench, which is definitely, it's great. You're trying to shore up and make sure that you've got a lot of good cash generation to help with your upgrade cadence moving forward. Michelini, that's a lock. I think he's a lockdown defender, probably not the best for Supercoach scoring, but you've got the cash in the bank to flip a Goda to someone like a Caulfield. You've got Connor McKenna, Jimby. I like Doherty as a pick. Young and Dacos, I've got both of them. They're both great. On the, Phillips can be here, and McKenzie can be a downgrade to someone else.
Oscar Baker.
To free up some cash. Yeah, Oscar Baker, or the Frio guy who looks really good. That's going to be playing on the wing. I forgot what his name was. He's also one that is 123k. Is also one that Johnson, correct. That's also another one that you could have there, who seems to be doing really well, or a Campbell Chesser, who's also been training really well. There's a lot of options over there. And Cam McKenzie is not going to be playing in the Pracky game this week. So another reason to maybe forego him and use that cash to upgrade a rookie to someone else. Jackson could very easily be a Darcy Cameron, for example, in that similar price point, or could even be, a really successful mid-pricer, depending on the role, like a Long or a Zeeble or even a Cunnington. These guys are all cheaper than Jackson, who could end up outscoring him. Bruce, only time will tell if he's best 22. Intercept defender, I think, is definitely more sure and reliable than having a key forward at that point for that price. more likely to get some extra points, intercept marking, as opposed to relying on goals. So I think it's well on the way for Sal. Not a bad team, just a bit of tinkering here and there. And that obviously will come with watching the Pracky games, which we're going to be doing very closely and reporting. So thank you very much for giving us.
If you just go back for a sec, Joe.
Yep.
If you made one change, which would be going Mackenzie down to a Baker, putting Phillips on field and going a Jackson up to Cogs, I think your team would be a lot stronger. So just one little change player-wise. The problem with Jackson is he's 465K. So he's almost valued at like an 80, 85 already. I don't know if he's going to be scoring much more than that. And an 85 isn't going to be a keeper in that forward line. So he'd be the main issue for me to look at in your team right now. Otherwise, the players are okay.
Fair enough. Very nice. Okay. So now get to Clinton Mon's team. Alrighty. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 primo team. Very nice. I especially like you're paying up. There's not even like, he's paid up for 2 that he thinks are going to be top 8, as well as Dacos, who is the value pick. He's also gone to Caulfield, Jimby Wilmot. If Wagner was a McKenna, that back line to push like a Wilmot onto the bench, the back line I think would be really strong. Interesting that there's no Yo, who a lot of, as we've discussed a lot, appears to be one of those players that is becoming increasingly harder to fade. Interesting selection. Omission. Clary, Bond, Steele. These are, you've gone value. You're seeing value in these guys, which is absolutely good. And you're paying up for your captaincy option every week, which is perfectly fine. You've got Hopper, Ashcroft, Phillips. Well done. I think this is a great structure. Structure-wise, obviously only time will tell if the players themselves are correct. But speaking structurally, I think this sort of midfield is really strong. You've also got some DPP players on the bench that will give you some flexibility, which is great. I like that a lot. English Marshall, I think Marshall's a lot. With Radagalia, who's been training in the back line and apparently doing really well. He's one that I'm going to keep a really close eye on this in the games. English, you got to start him. Otherwise, you fade him and you're starting him. So fair enough. 5, Allen, I'm not going to speak about. We've already discussed. 5, interesting selection. 1 to really also keep a close eye on. McLean and Philippou. Philippou's been impressing in the preseason games, but it's going to be predominantly forward. He's got Nick Madden here. Okay, interesting, very interesting. Well, these can easily be swapped. So all in all, I think structurally it's quite good, quite strong. I think you end up, because you've paid up in the in the back line with a couple of the really expensive defenders. I think that ends up causing you to maybe have a slightly weaker part of your forward line over here. And that's something that you probably, want to live with. But personally, I'm not the biggest fan. I think being able to move up to even a Flanders might be worth your while more than picking an Oscar Allen, who's going to be a key forward with unreliable scoring. But all in all, this is a wait and see, a lot of wait and see. Over to you, Big Joe.
Joe, you're not the biggest fan? I don't mind the team. I think it's definitely got some strengths. I definitely think it's got some strengths across the board. It'd more just be wait and see for the preseason for me. Stewart's great. Brayshaw's definitely got some question marks. If the pick works out, you're probably getting him at 50K cheaper. I don't know if that's more valuable than the 100K you might get like Young for, but he does have probably a bit more proven scoring from his scoring last year. Oliver, question marks just over fitness and his injuries, that kind of thing. He will drop in price compared to maybe a Laird or, a bit more of a cheaper guy. You could downgrade him if you want, but I'm happy with you having both those captain options. Steele is appropriately priced there, so great pickup. Davies, Uniac, definitely someone to watch again through the preseason. I don't think Cunnington's going to steal a lot of points from him, but for 50K more, you could get someone like a Parrish or a Brayshaw who might just be better starting picks. Or 30K less, you can go into a Titch who, if he comes out and scores 2 120s in the preseason games, he's kind of forced himself into your team. Hopper's great. I love the team structure. So having 2 rookies in the midfield, I think is fantastic. That bench is fine. If you've got some cash left over, I don't think we can really see your cash. But you've got enough 123k plays that you can shuffle around if you have to there. Yep. So English and Marshall, I don't mind the picks. As Joe said, start English, don't bring him in. Marshall's great. We know my talking on him. Radically is definitely a big watch. As Joe said, you can move him and Madden into the positions, or DPP swap them. So we'll just count almost Radically being on that forward bench. Dunkley Taranto is great. I would love if your team had a third premium. If you could somehow swing like 50k, or not 50k, if you could somehow swing like 200k, go an Allen to like another premium, your team would be fantastic. You'd almost be not winning Supercoach, but you'd definitely be up in the packs. I agree with Joe. Not having Yo is probably a bad thing at this point. But yeah, wait and see. Watch the preseason games. You're doing quite well.
Great. Thank you, Clinton. Really appreciate it. We now move to Justin Cranston, who's managed to fit his team into one screenshot. Thank you very much, Justin. We love you very much for that. 12,500 in the bank.
How much money he's got there too.
I applaud you, sir. I applaud you. Okay, so we got Stuart, Young, Dacos, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 primo team. Okay. You can't fit 14. 13 is the absolute most because we don't have infinite cash, right? We don't have infinite cash.
You can
and
do it.
We can see what happens when you go 13 primos.
It's pretty tough. You can do it, but it's rough. Yeah. I'll
Things
guess I'll go
start
first.
to get weird with your selections. Go for it.
I really like this team. I think if not for players on field, I think your players you picked, you've obviously picked them for a reason. No Tom Mitchell, no Green is someone who you'd probably be considering bringing them in over a Jelly. I think his probably risk level is too high compared to everyone else, just not knowing what GWS is doing, plus also his injury, but in the past, that kind of thing. Oliver and Neil, I think, will drop in price. Similar to Neil, I think Oliver, there's people competing for spots. I think you can get them at a much cheaper price throughout the year. McRae's fine. Surprising no Bont. Moving to the ruck line, we know my thoughts on Darcy Cameron. I think he's probably, out of the premiums you've got, I think he's the one that you really need to consider upgrading to. If he comes out in the preseason and him and Cox are sharing ruck a lot, he's going to hurt you more than like a 102k rookie having him on field, because he will have games where he's scoring 60s and other people are popping out 100s. So you don't want him to depreciate in price, which he could very much do. Dunkley, Rosie, Taranto's fine. McLean, Philippou, Bruce. If you had another mid-pricer in there, it's okay. This is definitely one of those real guns and rookies teams. And that shows with the amount of premiums you've got. If you had, let's say if you had downgraded Oliver and Neil and brought in, like, downgrade those two, bring in a Titch and a Green, you could make this team so much better by putting another mid-pricer in the forward line, another one in the back line who's going to jump in price, and throwing in like a Bont or somebody. I'm not a big fan of Warple. I think Hopper's a much, much better pick. But if you did that one small change and moved Darcy Cameron, your team, boy, oh boy, you're top 100 coming into round one. Like, you will score well. I really love this team. Right now, it's about maximizing value and the ability to go into full premium as quick as you can. Because if you've only got 6, you could have it, you've only got like 8 players left on field to upgrade. Imagine that starting the season, 8 players left to upgrade. It's bloody fantastic. Off to you, Joe.
I agree. But I personally feel like if you're going to go 13 primos, it should be, I feel like ideally for team structure in terms of not having a lot of iffy, dodgy, suspect scores on field. I think you can really only do that if you sort of follow a similar way that I presented my team the other week in terms of going a bit heavy in terms of the primo options in the forward line, who are all underpriced, and then having both a Titch and a Green, who are both really value in the midfield. It becomes really hard to really fit in 13 primos whilst also maintaining good scoring all over the field if you're paying up, especially in the midfield like you have. You haven't really gone too budget. Your cheapest player is Jelly, who by all reports is still doing really well. I'm not completely against the Jelly pick, don't get me wrong, but having Joyce, McElhaney, Wilmot, three rookie price players in the back line is definitely a lot less than a lot of other people are having, especially when they've got a guy like Yo and Jinbi on the field as well, and a McKenna. So you're missing, I think, three fairly big names out of the back line. In terms of structure, 5 primos, a mid-pricer, and the 2 legendary rookies is the perfect structure, I think, to start the year. In the midfield, probably not these particular players, especially, I agree on the Warple selection with Big J. Definitely think Hopper is a lot more safer. Even a Sheed, I think, might probably be better than a Warple too. And then the thing is that what you get also out of having more of the budget primos in the forward line is that you end up having, and maybe even also a mid pricer, is that you end up with like a McLean at F6 as opposed to having McLean at F4. And then you're not really relying on a rookie in Philippou and whether or not Bruce is best 22. So again, I think there is a bit of tinkering that can be done, a lot of wait and see to see whether these primos that you've selected are really going to be great, and whether or not these rookies that you've selected are also going to play in round 1. I think that's a major component, and whether or not they have Supercoach friendly roles. I think McElhaney is a lockdown defender, and that's not the best scoring avenue because they're not going to be going for a lot of intercept marks. They're going to be going for spoils more than anything. They're going to be killing. They're trying to kill the ball and get the ball off to the distributor. So they're not the ones that are going to get the big points from intercepts and then taking the ball forward. So that's my view, right on time, just as Big J came back. So thank you very much for your team, Justin. We now come to Chris Arts. You want to start us off with this one, Big J?
How you doing, Chris? Thanks for sending in your team. Love the support, mate. Keep up the good work. Cicely Sinclair Doherty. Wow. 4 prem. Wow. This is a very interesting team. Something we really haven't had much of before. Oliver Neal, 2 Camilla. So that's 8. Ooh, 8. 9 premiums. I'll count Marshall as a premium. Keep going, Joe. Oh, yeah. So the thing with overpaying for premiums, I guess I'm going to say overpaying because this year we've got a lot of 600K players who are very expensive because they're 600K, but it doesn't allow you a lot of money to spend in the rest of your team. I love the top half of your team, the bottom half of your team. Oh boy, it needs a bit of work. I think you really need to consider not running as many super uber expensive premiums and bring in some other guys who are a bit cheaper. Meek's not going to do much for you. We've spoken about him today earlier. Darcy Cameron's in a very similar boat. Did he have Hopper in there, Joe? Can you just go back?
Good question. Yes, he does. He has Hopper and Sheed.
Right. And Sheed, yeah. So I'd almost be looking to downgrade one of your top 3 in the back line to a Yo to free up like 200-ish K. You could almost get 300K if you did it to a Sinclair. And I think that money would do you so much better pumping into the back line. You could grab at least a second real premium, upgrade Meek to somebody, and then look to doing some other stuff as well. I don't mind the Sheed pick, but it's probably not the best. In this team, when you're looking for value across lines because you spent so much on players, it'd be something to consider. Everyone knows my thoughts on Neil. We spoke about Tuke Miller a lot last week. Well, not last week, yesterday's episode. I think he's going to drop in a lot of cash, if not even start at the start of the season. His hamstring issues, they might not be fixed by the time season rolls around. So it's something really to consider there. Otherwise, the rookies are okay. I think you just need to spread out the cash a lot more. It's not last year. Supercoach every year changes. Last year, stacking the back line was fantastic. This year, it's more stack the forward line and grab the mid prices in other positions because you're looking for guys who are value. 500K for a guy that's priced at 90 who can score 100 plus is fantastic. Spending top dollar on a player who's going to drop in price and everyone else can grab him at some point. You're not going to be paying 110 for a 110 player. You just can't do it this year.
Yeah, I agree entirely. I think paying up, especially when there's so many viable, cheaper options to be run in the backline. There's Yo is the big one. I think we can see a lot of progression in Young scoring if you want a primo there, with all the reports that he's taking kick-ins now. So he could well and truly take that next step to be a top 8 defender. You've got Caulfield, you've got Jimby, you've got Sheed. You've got what was his name? McKenna, should I say? McKenna. Hunter Clark is another option. There's a lot of, even mid prices in addition to the rookies, Constable, Wilmot. There's a lot of options out there, and you've sort of been by overpaying and really having a lot of these 1 or 2K rookies on the bench, who really might not be best 22 and might not get games. You don't want to have. It's quite unrealistic to expect that so many, even if they were just name placeholders. It's not realistic that you're going to have so many 102K players on the bench actually get named in the best 22 for round 1. So you definitely are much better off saving by going down, not overpaying so much for all of these big primos in the backline in particular, who are definitely going to drop in price as well. And then you can do that to bolster up your bench, in addition to maybe fielding some less rookies, because despite paying up for 4 primos in the backline, you've got 2 rookies on the field still, which is probably the same as what a lot of other people are doing, and their jobs might be better for scoring. You might end up having someone have a Jimby and a McKenna compared to these 2 spots, So I definitely think that the money should be redistributed a bit differently, and that will also allow you to then also maybe have Van Rooyen be on the bench as opposed to being at F6. Again, key forwards is not, key forwards aren't the best for scoring. You know my thoughts on that already, loud and clear. And the worst thing, as we've said in yesterday's episode, you can't win the 50K in round 1, but you can definitely lose it if you have to change your entire structure because too many of your players aren't playing. It's really, really important that you nail your team right off the bat. Definitely think that it's better to spread your money. But other than that, thank you so much, Chris, for your team. We really appreciate it, man. Yeah. We now come to Callum Carline, who will be our last team for the day. Callum Carline with 1,300. Thank you for showing us how much money you got left.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, he's got
you
2
go,
Carlton boys in the back line. 2, 3. You're picking Richards to be a keeper. So 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. That's 12 keepers, 12 primos. Zeeble could be a 13th. Obviously, or could very easily become a 13th if he has that role that he had a couple of years ago, and he has that scoring. Obviously, you're going to watch the games really closely to make sure that he does have that role. McLean at F5, Bruce at F6, another one with Bruce. Don't mind the English Marshall selection. Madden, don't mind that. Decent bench, 123K rookies. You got Hopper and Shade, Ashcroft Phillips. That's great. I think only 2 rookies on the field there, which is good structurally. And you're paying up for Doherty to maintain his value, which he could, playing midfield minutes. Sard, average 110 without Williams. So that's a fair shout. Richards, you're counting on him to really take that next step, maintain that role that he had in the back half of the year. So, look, I don't mind if you're keeping a close eye on the Bulldogs. You're keeping a close eye on Richards and you like what you see and you reckon he's going to be a top 8, then, fair shout. Joe, Jimmy McKenna. Look, I think in terms of structure, it's also a really good structure. There's no real one position on the field, apart from maybe F6, which people could have maybe a McLean there. Someone could have a Canelio. Having Canelio, I think, is quite underpriced for the performance for the output that he can dish out. But that's probably the only real thing I'd say. What about you, Big J?
I think we finished today's episode on a real winner. I think there's a lot of upside in this team and not much downside. Good amount of premiums, some really nice cash generation, has a great bench. I think it's more just a wait and see now to kind of fill out a lot of the spots. Maybe a Parish kind of struggles in the preseason, you can go sideways to someone else. Similar with a Zeeble, that kind of thing. There's options at these prices where you can do that. Even a Bruce to like a Philippou if he comes out and goes bang. So I really, really like this team. It's just about honing in the picks more than changing the structure in the next couple of weeks of the preseason heading into round one.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I agree. Well done, Callum. You've done a sensational job here with this. And as you say, Big J, I think this is a great, great way to end this stream. Let's go there. Perfect. Love it. So, guys, thank you so much for joining us for Hump Day, Day 3 of the Team Review Week. Please like, share, subscribe. Keep sending us your teams if you want us to have a look at it maybe again before the start of the season in upcoming videos. Anything to say, Big J?
Remember, guys, if you love the content, we'd appreciate a like, share, and subscribe on the channel. We are trying to grow. We are trying to hit that 1K because then a lot of options really start opening up for us there. So we'd really appreciate that to happen. Hope you guys are loving the content. We do it because we love Supercoach and we got to please you guys that way. Remember to join our Supercoach group. You guys can win some amazing prizes. Got an AFL jersey, some tickets to the game, and also an AFL voucher. Any final words, Joe?
Remember, guys, we do the hard work so you don't have to. Bye for now.